She sat at the computer. Outside, the traffic noise was intermittent, but just enough to annoy. Inside, the pressure cooker on the stove hissed continuously. He was in the bathroom, spitting and clearing his throat. She wasn't ready. This would cause a problem. They needed to go to the bank to get him an account. He also wanted her to go with him to look for a job. She knew he'd never get one, and they'd face questioning and blank looks from the job centre staff. In all probability, he'd get angry and walk off, but not without first blaming her. Her chest tightened at the thought. She found it hard to understand how she'd got to this point. She remembered her father's parting words. "You make your bed and you lie in it." How true that was. 2 hours later they returned to the flat. She kicked off her heavy sandals and took off her bra. The heat was oppressive. She kept on her thin black cotton vest and khaki trousers and began typing again. It hadn't turned out quite as bad as she'd expected, though the woman in the bank had been particularly difficult, asking him whether he had any evidence of where he was living for bills or someone willing to vouch for knowing him for the last 2 years. He'd become irritated by all the questions, putting on his dark glasses, and had told her, "Come on, let's go," after a few minutes. The bank worker had stared at them strangely as they left, and had seemed to need to make a telephone call. What was all that about? Her body was terribly tired. Her eyes were nearly closing, and she could hardly concentrate. Her feet were heavy, and her ankles were swollen. He washed his hands and began preparing the midday meal. He cooked the lamb and vegetables in advance and was now adding extra garlic and fresh coriander. The food smelled wonderful. She called to him. "Do you want any help?" "No," he said. "You sit there like una regina." She was glad of the rest. Her feet felt as if they'd been scalded. She was so tired she couldn't speak.